Tonight, New England is bracing for another round of thunderstorms, which could make things even worse for a Massachusetts town already under a state of emergency from catastrophic flooding. Something like 9 inches of rain falling in the last 24 hours. Look at this, covering the streets with water. One car in this parking lot almost totally submerged. Look at this building. It sits on the edge of a river, just collapsed. It's just gone. The roof is hanging down. Those are the bricks you can see spilled out on the ground. Roads are falling apart. This whole area under and next to these train tracks is gone. And check out this car. It literally fell through its garage floor, just fell right through. Other cars are sitting in flooded riverbeds or streets. I don't know. At this point, you can barely tell the difference. The rivers are just washing stuff up and moving stuff around. Listen to what the mayor found.
The dumpster's full, and it came from somewhere else, and we don't know where it came from. So the water dragged that from the river once it went above stream and dragged it with it.
First responders are working to make sure everybody is safe, and they've got to get this under control fast because Hurricane Lee is moving closer and closer to the East Coast. Even if it may not make a direct hit, it could certainly bring more rain to New England as it passes by. Kristen Dahlgren is live for us on the ground in Massachusetts. This is serious where you are, Kristen. Some schools had to shut down.
Yeah, Hallie, and really just a touching moment. A few seconds ago, before we came on the air, people coming out of this house carrying bags of their belongings, carrying their 2 cats, really just trying to rescue what they could. I'll step out of the way so you can get a better look of just what's going on here and why it's such a tense situation here. Still tonight, you can see the water pouring down here. That's right where one of the commuter rail tracks was washed out. Roads here have been washed away. 2 dams needed to be shored up today because they were concerned that the water was pushing up against them and could overtop or could breach. And so the governor toured the area, said they were working on that as well. She says that she plans now to declare a state of emergency. There's already a local state of emergency. We'll then see that state of emergency. She also says that the Biden administration is aware. So as far as how bad things were, this came in quickly last night. Here's what Fire Rescue had to say today.
You know, my 37 years, I've never seen this much. A lot of people, the mayor agrees, and just, you know, and a lot of utilities, you know, problems. So we're just, you know, let National Grid know that they need to start checking their gas lines, and, you know, a lot of gas stuff's been shut off. So it's going to take a long time to get things back to normal in Leominster.
And today, throughout the day here, we have heard sirens as those rescue crews have headed out to make sure that everybody is safe. And then as you talked about the potential for more rain, a few storms possible overnight. And then tomorrow is the real concern as we go, you know, 11, 12 into the afternoon. There could be some more significant downfalls here.
Kristen, thank you very much. Appreciate it. New anger tonight and new fear in Pennsylvania as the convicted killer who escaped from a prison nearly 2 weeks ago now has a gun that he stole. And the governor is pledging to find answers as to how this killer could possibly still be on the loose after all this time. Danilo Cavalcante took that rifle from somebody's garage, apparently. The homeowner tried to shoot him themselves, according to police, firing off several shots before Cavalcante got away. He ditched that green hoodie and white T-shirt right near the driveway. Listen.
Cavalcante is considered armed and extremely dangerous. We ask residents in and around this vicinity to please secure homes, outbuildings, and vehicles.
Schools in the area are shut down again today. Look at this as police are going street by street, expanding their search after somebody reportedly saw Cavalcante by the side of the road. Troopers finding what they think are his footprints in the mud and the prison shoes he's also abandoned. I want to bring in Lindsay Reiser, who's on the ground for us in Pennsylvania. So police say they're going to hunt until they find him. They have to now at this point, as he has a gun, and there is a real sense of a community on edge.
Yeah, there is, Hallie. I mean, this is a new phase here of this search, even though we are in day 13. Police always knew he was dangerous, but now they've confirmed he has a weapon and he is desperate. So let's go over the developments that happened overnight. 8 p.m., somebody spots a man, looks like he's kneeling in the Woodline area. And then About 2 hours later, that resident calls police saying Cavalcante went into his open garage, stole a .22 caliber rifle, and fled. That homeowner firing several shots at Cavalcante. But right now, authorities say they have no reason to believe he's injured. The perimeter that they've set up is about 8 square miles, about 10 minutes from where I am. This is about 27 miles north of the prison and that botanical garden, that initial perimeter that he evaded police from. And then he stole that dairy van, drove it up to this area and ditched it when he ran out of gas. Obviously, a lot of different puzzle pieces here, but we did hear from the police, and our colleague George Solis asked what went wrong here, and this was the response.
Lieutenant Colonel, what has gone wrong here? I mean, have you underestimated him? Is he just that much of a worthy adversary?
Our law enforcement people have done an amazing job tracking him and locating him, that proverbial needle in the haystack, and they've located that needle repeatedly.
And right now they say they believe he's ditched his prison shoes. He stole a pair of work boots from a porch. They believe he's shirtless in blue pants, Hallie.
Lindsay, there's also the governor of Pennsylvania today sounding pretty confident they will catch this criminal soon, but also raising some pretty key questions to folks where you are about this accountability issue, about the question that it seems like so many people are asking, which is, wait a second, how has this guy not been caught yet?
Right. I mean, the governor said that they believe they have him contained in this area, and he said that they are throwing all assets at this. They've got about 500 personnel working this, but that question still remains, and the folks around here are wary. They say they want this guy caught. Of course, there has been some accountability. That prison guard who was on duty at the time that Cavalcante escaped has been fired. We know that this is the second prison escape from that facility. This is what the governor said this morning.
I think obviously there are questions that Chester County officials are going to have to answer as to how this suspect was able to escape, particularly given the history at that jail.
So we saw that crab walk that Cavalcante was able to scale those walls, was also able to scale newly installed razor wire, but now the prison says that they will be adding more cameras and repositioning guards. Hallie.
Lindsay Reiser, thank you very much for being there live in Chester County. Appreciate it. To Washington now, and the House Speaker tonight opening an impeachment inquiry against President Biden, typically a significant and potentially weighty step. And tonight, one that has his critics up in arms. That's because Speaker McCarthy promised less than 2 weeks ago he wouldn't do this unless he got the green light from the whole House of Representatives. Fast forward something like 11 days, and here we are, with Speaker McCarthy under pressure from his far-right flank. Listen.
These are allegations of abuse of power, obstruction, and corruption.
So the House is now formally opening this inquiry, these key committees, into potentially impeaching the president over allegations he was involved improperly with his son's business dealings. McCarthy blames his predecessor, Nancy Pelosi, for opening the door to the whole thing. And late tonight, one of Hunter Biden's lawyers says the impeachment inquiry is based on inaccurate conspiracies, calling this nothing but a political sideshow. Keep in mind, Republicans have been investigating Hunter Biden for months, with so far no evidence the president himself did anything wrong. So if that holds, you might be asking, then what's the point of an impeachment inquiry? Critics say politics and perhaps power as we head into a key campaign year. And Speaker McCarthy hopes to hold on to his gavel. Sahil Kapoor joins us now. So, Sahil, 3 buckets here, right? The facts, the fallout, and then the Beltway intrigue, if you will. Let me start with the facts. By raising this to the level of an impeachment inquiry, the House will have more legal power to look into the Biden family. We're already getting a clue late tonight, right as we're coming on the air, as to where they're going to go. They want more records, and they want to interview more people, right?
That's right, Hallie. They're looking for bank records. They say they're going to try to pursue other documents, anything through which they can potentially find a connection between the alleged misdeeds and criminal actions of Hunter Biden, connect that with the actions of President Biden. They don't have evidence of this yet. This has been a problem all the way up to this point, where McCarthy has faced all kinds of pressure from his right to move in this direction without having the evidence. McCarthy is now presenting this inquiry as a way to gather more facts without promising what happens next. The statement you see on the screen is from the 3 committee chairs that McCarthy put in charge of this investigation. They already have been investigating the Bidens for months. They have not uncovered the evidence they want yet. And they describe it as, they say, quote, the Oversight Committee will soon pursue Hunter and James Biden's personal and business bank records, Hallie. They go on to describe their theory of the case here and what they think they're going to find.
There's also the fallout piece of it, plenty of it from Democrats already. You heard the statement from Hunter Biden's team. The White House says this is simply red meat. essentially, for the extreme right wing to attack President Biden. It feels like this is something we're going to hear for months into the 2024 campaign.
Yeah, we absolutely will. There's been aggressive pushback from Democrats who are depicting this entire impeachment push as an evidence-free partisan sham. The White House has been tweeting up a storm all day. You know, that war room of several dozen legislative aides, lawyers, communications specialists that we reported on a couple of weeks ago has been very active today in response to this. Democratic leaders on the Hill have also weighed in. Let's play what Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer had to say.
I think the impeachment inquiry is absurd. The American people want us to do something that will make their lives better, not go off on these chases and witch hunts.
And beyond that, Jerry Nadler, the Democratic chair of the Judiciary Committee who oversaw Trump's 2 impeachments, says this is wildly different, that in 2019 they had evidence of wrongdoing by Trump, that he tried to extort the government of Ukraine. And then on January 6th, he says everyone saw with their own eyes what happened. Hallie.
So then let's become Beltway insiders the way you are, Sahil. In other words, pull back the curtain so we can understand the political drama here, because as Playbook put it late today, it's a tale as old as time, or at least since January 2023. All in all, the hard right prevails. McCarthy goes back on his word to hold on to power. Moderates roll over, and the whole thing is likely headed nowhere in the Senate.
Going back on his word in just 11 days, that's what's so jarring about this, Hallie. McCarthy said just 11 days ago that he would not open an impeachment inquiry with the declaration of one man. Today, he announced he is, in fact, opening an impeachment inquiry as a declaration of one man. It just seems like McCarthy has decided he has less to lose by going back on that word and moving forward with this impeachment inquiry, given how restive and how antsy that right flank is. One of those Republicans who has been egging him on in this direction, probably the most outspoken McCarthy antagonist in the conference, is Matt Gaetz. Let's play what he said.
Mr. Speaker, you are out of compliance with the agreement that allowed you to assume this role. The path forward for the House of Representatives is to either bring you into immediate total compliance or remove you pursuant to a motion to vacate the chair.
In other words, Hallie, stay in line with what we want, or your job will be at risk. Any one person can call a vote to vacate the Speaker's chair.
Much more to come on this one. Sahil Kapoor, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Late tonight, some new details on a massive catastrophe overseas. More than 5,000 people killed in a situation in Libya that is reminiscent of what happened during Hurricane Katrina here. A storm and flooding so intense, like you see here, dams burst, sweeping away entire neighborhoods. Officials there sounding the alarm for help now from all around the world to try to save more than 10,000 people who are still missing. And the conditions are just terrible. I mean, look at this. This is water turning these apartment buildings into islands. In other places, you have cars and roads and houses in pieces, destroyed by the storm itself. All of it making for a difficult and gruesome day for responders, uncovering hundreds of bodies. With help slow to arrive because of how remote this city is. You finally had rescue teams getting into place now, something like 36 hours after this storm hit. Josh Letterman is joining us now. And Josh, it is a terrible situation. Mass graves in the eastern part of Libya. It is making it very difficult, the fact that this is a remote area for groups to come in and try to help, try to respond.
Yeah, that's right. It's also not helped by the fact, Hallie, that a lot of the roads have been destroyed by what climate scientists say was more than a foot of water that quickly descended on this area, breaking through those 2 dams that really created a wall of water that, according to local officials, wiped out about a quarter of the city of Derna, really took out entire neighborhoods. And part of the problem in trying to identify just how many people have died is that, according to officials in Libya, not only are there bodies that are buried under the rubble, but so many people were simply swept out into the Mediterranean Sea when those waters descended on coastal Libya. And I want you to hear what Brian Lander from the World Food Program had to say about what it's going to take to respond to this.
The scale of it is unclear, but we know it's big, and we know it's going to take a massive response. We're ready to deploy that quickly and rapidly as soon as we understand where the most needs are, who are the communities that are most impacted and in the most desperate need, and move that out as quickly as possible.
The good news is some help is starting to flow from neighboring countries like Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria, Turkey. Here in Qatar, they are sending 2 planes that are expected to reach Benghazi shortly to pre-position supplies to move into the area, Hallie.
This is happening in a country that's been divided by rival governments. Derna, in particular, has been somewhat neglected as far as its infrastructure for a long time. That cannot be helping things, Josh.
Yeah, that's right. Aid officials say, look, this area has been focused for more than a decade now on this fighting between these rival governments. Derna, in fact, was once a hotbed for extremists. It was taken over by an ISIS affiliate. And so there has not been a lot of attention given to early warning systems, to making sure that these dams were up to par and that they were going to be able to withstand waters like this. And that is complicating this assistance effort. In fact, the White House looking for ways to help, but it's unclear who exactly they would help. The U.S. does not recognize the government that is actually in control of the area that's been hardest hit.
Josh Letterman, thank you so much. Just a devastating situation in Libya. Appreciate your reporting. In just the last hour, back here at home, the CDC is voting to recommend a new COVID shot, saying anybody older than 6 months should get it, as one big tech company takes a controversial step to try to block COVID misinformation. I'm talking about Threads on Meta. That's the competitor of Twitter, now X. And if you logged on tonight and typed in pretty much any COVID-related keyword, this is what you'd see. A message directing you to the CDC website for more information. Meta, in a statement to NBC, says it's temporary. They say pretty soon you'll be able to search for things related to COVID once the company is confident in the quality of the results. I want to bring in NBC's Erica Edwards and NBC's Jake Ward, who is covering this one for us tonight. Erica, let me start with you on this updated COVID shot here. The first time since COVID vaccines came out that the federal government is not going to cover some of the costs here, right? What are folks going to be looking at if they decide they do want to go out and get this updated vaccine?
Yeah, hi, Hallie. Well, so both Pfizer and Moderna have both set the list price of their new updated COVID vaccine at more than $100. Realistically, however, for most of us, it won't cost a dime. That's because the majority of private health insurance plans, as well as public ones like Medicare, are going to cover the cost of these shots at no cost to us, as long as you stay generally in your provider network. Now, people without health insurance, they'll be able to get those shots, again, free of charge at community health centers, also through a federal bridge program run by the Department of Health and Human Services. We should get more details tomorrow from the administration on how that's actually going to work, not only for vaccines, but also for treatments like Paxlovid and how to get those treatments to these vulnerable communities. You know, one concern is that there may not be enough money for the kind of public outreach and education that we saw in previous years to try to get these shots to these vulnerable, underinsured and underinsured communities. Hallie?
Erica Edwards, thank you very much. Jake Ward, let me bring you into the conversation here because we talked about how Threads is temporarily blocking searches about COVID. Explain why and why now.
Well, the why is not entirely clear. It seems to be that essentially they've decided that there is just so much misinformation out there that they do not want to be party to more of it. And as a result, if you try to type in many of the words that you mentioned, and right up until the moment I've got here with you, I was typing them in and they're still coming up in the same way. If you put in COVID, coronavirus, vaccine, any of these sorts of terms, you don't get the organic search results that would connect you to other users and their posts. Instead, you just get this one destination, and that's the CDC site. Now, how long this is going to last, we don't know, but Meta seems to believe that they need to get their arms more around the quality of the search results before they're going to be willing to let this information move across their platform. And so at this hour, the CDC is all you get.
Jake Ward, thank you very much. More to come on that one for sure. Appreciate it. We've got some developing news into us tonight with 5 former Memphis police officers now facing federal indictments in the death of Tyre Nichols. Remember, Nichols was beaten by officers back in January after they stopped him in his car. He died at the hospital a few days later. Late today, the Justice Department is saying nobody, not police officers, not anybody, are above the law.
When some officers violate the Constitution, when they use excessive force, when they ignore serious injuries inflicted on people they arrest, their actions erode the public's trust.
These 5 ex-officers have already pleaded not guilty to separate state charges of second-degree murder. I want to get right to our justice correspondent, Ken Delaney. Tell us more about what we're learning from these federal indictments filed and why it is a significant step here in the fight for, if not closure at all, then at least justice or accountability in the death of Tyre Nichols.
Yeah, Hallie, this is a 4-count federal indictment against these 5 officers who are in custody on the state murder charges, alleging that they violated Mr. Nichols' civil rights under color of law by, of course, beating him to death, and also by failing to intervene when others were beating him, by failing to get him medical attention. The indictment also says they conspired to obstruct justice and to tamper with witnesses. And importantly, the charges, the federal charges, carry a term of up to life in prison, which is separate from the 25 years that goes with the second-degree murder charge levied by the state. And beyond that, the Justice Department argues that there is a federal interest here in the federal government cracking down on police misconduct and sending a message that police misconduct, police deprivation of rights cannot be tolerated. This was one of the most horrific beatings that many of us have ever seen, and we did see it because it was on part of it was on video, body cam video, and other video that was released. And what the Justice Department goes on to say, besides the beating, these officers took elaborate steps to try to cover this up, and now they are charging that conduct in this federal civil rights case, Hallie.
Ken Delaney, and thank you very much. Up next, more to get to here on the show, including new iPhone charging cords on the way. And it's either going to be super convenient or super annoying for you. Plus, that's not the only change you're going to want to know about. What's happening to self-serve soda at McDonald's in our 5 things. Stay with us. Number 1, an FDA panel says the key ingredient found in popular over-the-counter decongestants doesn't actually work. We're talking about phenylephrine. This is that hearing we told you about last night. This is in stuff like Sudafed PE and Benadryl, allergy plus congestion. The FDA says when you take these pills, like when you swallow them, very little of this drug actually makes it through your gut and liver and bloodstream to where it needs to go. Now they're going to consider whether to take away its designation as generally recognized as safe. If that happens, you could see this stuff pulled off shelves at the drugstore. Number 2, a new study says night owls may be more likely to develop diabetes than early birds. Why? Researchers found people who naturally like to stay up later are more likely to have some not so ideal lifestyle habits like eating more late, exercising less, or even smoking more. Number 3, just minutes ago, the first day of that big antitrust trial over Google ended, the one we told you about last night. The Justice Department laying out its case that Google unfairly boxed out its competitors, and that the company has struck deals to become the default search engine on phones and on browsers unfairly. But Google says, hey, people just prefer to search on Google, and that it still does have a lot of competition. Number 4, MGM Resorts says it's still dealing with that cybersecurity outage affecting a whole bunch of its systems. Some websites went down. They told people book rooms over the phone. Resorts are still running. MGM's looking into what happened. Number 5, the days of pouring your own Coke or Sprite or mix of all 3 of them plus a little Dr. Pepper, those days are over. That's because McDonald's says it's going to phase out those self-serve soda machines. Instead, your drinks will come from employees from behind the counter. This will happen slowly over the next decade because McDonald's says it wants to make the experience consistent. But if you ever wondered what Sprite plus High C tasted like, you're on your own. In just the last few hours, Apple is announcing its newest phone model, the iPhone 15, is going to have one huge change beyond just the new features. Its charging port. You're going to need USBC chargers for these new phones. This is the plug. You can see it here. I am quite sure you have it in your house right now. It's this like oval-shaped thing. There's probably a lot of other stuff that you use that uses this specific kind of charger, but not your existing iPhone, not your iPhone now. Here's what Apple's saying.
USB-C has become a universally accepted standard. So we're bringing USB-C to iPhone 15. It's been built into Apple products for years. Now, the same cable can charge Mac, iPad, iPhone, and even AirPods Pro.
So the framing there from Apple kind of sounding like they made this call on their own. Truth is, they were sort of forced into it after the EU last year mandated these tech companies to adopt USB-C under this rule called the Common Charger Rule. This applies to almost everything, including phones, tablets, digital cameras, headphones, video game consoles, et cetera, et cetera. Steve Kovac is joining us from Apple headquarters in Cupertino, California. So lots of bells and whistles from Apple today, right? There always are at these rollouts. I've been to them. You've covered them. But the big thing is like, okay, the charger situation. I have 455 of them in my house right now. Like the ability to streamline feels amazing, but there are pros and cons here.
Yeah, Hallie, and I guarantee you just so many people at home have those drawers full of those tangled cords. I brought a little visual aid here. So for the last decade or so, we've been so used to charging our iPhones with this. It's called Apple's Lightning Connector. Only works on iPhones and some other Apple gadgets. We're moving over to this, USBC, like you said, that standard connector. And this is really a demonstration of how the European Union has been able to regulate tech companies, our American tech companies, from overseas and force a major change. Apple isn't doing this out of the kindness of its own heart or out of some altruistic desire. It's doing this because it's being forced to by regulators. Now, there are some advantages to this. You can throw out all those cords in your drawer, Hallie, and you can just buy one kind of cable from now on.
Not going to happen right away, though, like tomorrow, right?
No, of course not. No, these phones go on sale next month, and it's going to be a transition as people upgrade over time. You know, the last year's iPhones, and if you've been hanging on to your iPhone for a couple years, you're still going to be using that old kind of charger, Hallie.
Big picture, Apple has obviously been such an innovator over the years it's been in business. But do you see the company now, not just on this, but other issues too, kind of in more of a follower role than a setting the tone or leadership one, or is that overstating it?
A little bit, yes and no. But on the AI front, yeah, they are kind of following. We see so much from Google and Microsoft and other software companies doing really innovative and cool stuff in artificial intelligence. I don't think I heard the word artificial intelligence said at all today during the presentation. So it remains to be seen what the plan is there for Apple. And as far as the phones go, look, the story over the last 5 or 6 years, Hallie, has been iterative updates. People don't update their phones every year or even every 2 years anymore like they did when these smartphones first started coming out in this modern smartphone era. So if you wait 3, 4, or 5 years, that iterative update feels like a much bigger update. It's like going from a bicycle to a Ferrari.
Steve Kovac, that is illustrative indeed. Thank you very much. It's good to see you. Thank you for joining us. When we come back, who's helping and who is getting help days after that huge earthquake in Morocco? We're on the ground in Marrakesh with what the recovery looks like and the government's defense of where it's getting aid. Plus, a different fight over billions of dollars that could derail a prisoner exchange. What the Iranian president is telling our Lester Holt in an exclusive interview coming up. We are learning tonight that even more people have now been killed in that devastating earthquake in Morocco, 2,900 people. And as the number of victims goes up, so does the frustration and the anger over the country's response. The Moroccan government is facing a lot of criticism right now for seeming hesitant to accept help from dozens of countries, including France and Germany. When the earthquake first hit, French aid workers went and scrambled to pull together a rescue team. They were ready to go. They could have been in the disaster zone just 24 hours after that quake hit. But organizers say they never got the official okay from the Moroccan government at that point. As of now, the government has only officially accepted help from the UK, Spain, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. And 4 days after the disaster, there's still no sign of government rescue or help in some of the hardest hit villages. Some people digging for days with no help, just in some instances with their bare hands. Regular people trying to move around water and food and blankets to get them to the places that need them. Some saying they still do not have what they need to survive.
There isn't a single inhabitable house. Our infrastructure here needs to be rebuilt from scratch. We don't know how long we will live here.
Raf Sanchez is joining us now. So, Raf, help us understand what people on the ground are telling you, the politics that in some ways are mixed up in this recovery push.
Yeah, well, Hallie, just starting with the politics, it's been interesting. In the last couple of hours, we've seen the King of Morocco out in public for the first time since this disaster rocked his country. He went to a hospital. He donated blood. He met with a number of victims of the earthquake. That's here in Marrakesh, rather than going up to the mountains where the worst of the damage is. Hallie, in some ways, the politics of this kind of disaster visit is universal. We see the president in the U.S. sometimes getting criticism, not showing up fast enough for some people in Hawaii, in Florida, for example. But it is very notable that as this criticism ramps up, we are for the first time seeing the king in public. there is this question that remains unanswered about whether the Moroccan government should be accepting more international aid. We heard from the French president, Emmanuel Macron, earlier today, and he reiterated what the French have been saying. They are prepared to send help, but they have not yet received the request from the government of Morocco, and this is a sovereign country. They cannot just show up on their own. So a lot of questions about whether more aid could be sent here. Hallie.
Raf Sanchez live for us tonight in Marrakesh. Raf, thank you. The White House tonight in a ferocious back and forth with Iran, if you will, over billions of dollars that are part of a controversial prisoner exchange. The president of Iran telling our own Lester Holt exclusively that his country will use the $6 billion that was released by the U.S. any way it wants to. Listen.
This money belongs to the Islamic Republic of Iran, and naturally, we will decide, the Islamic Republic of Iran will decide to spend it wherever we need it. Humanitarian means whatever the Iranian people needs. So this money will be budgeted for those needs.
Well, now the National Security Council is pushing back on that, saying the money should only be used for stuff that relates to humanitarian help, things like food, medicine, medical equipment, agricultural products, and their words here, that's it. This prisoner swap would promise to release 5 detained Americans for 5 detained Iranians, as well as that handover of $6 billion that were frozen in South Korean banks because of sanctions. NBC's Monica Alba is joining us now. And, Mon, I know that you and our team are just hearing late tonight from, I believe it's a White House official, a senior administration official, rather, emphasizing this money was frozen, right? It was in South Korea. It's Iran's money. But there is this now controversy over it. How much, in reality, could it jeopardize the potential for this prisoner swap?
Well, the U.S. is really hoping that this goes forward, Hallie. They've been working on it quietly for years, and then in the last couple of months, we got a sense of what the deal would entail. But they are very clear here that the U.S. Treasury Department is the one that's going to be monitoring all of these transactions to ensure, they say, that these funds go to the right place. So to be clear, this isn't U.S. taxpayer money, which is what we're getting from this senior administration official in terms of clarity. And there's a real follow the money vibe here, where the U.S. is going to be tracing these funds that are going to be freed up, essentially, and then they're going to be going to banks in Qatar, and then that is where the U.S. will be able to see where the money is going, they say, and they say if it's diverted or used for something other than humanitarian aid, that they will then freeze it and not allow that to happen. But of course, there are plenty of critics here who say this could set a dangerous precedent for future countries that take Americans hostage. And you see there on the screen what the U.S. is hoping they can do in this process, and that they have set up these contingencies. But we know that those Americans aren't going to be released for at least a couple of days, not this week, maybe next week. And so they're still working out the details there. But that is where Republicans have stepped in and are fiercely criticizing the Biden administration for saying that this money, because President Raisi in Iran is saying they're the ones who are going to determine how to use it, they're very concerned about what that could mean. Here's a bit of a sense of their reaction today.
How they're going to use this money. They're going to use it to destabilize the area. They're going to use it to continue to have proxies against Israel.
I don't think the radical Ayatollahs in Tehran are going to use this for children's hospitals.
I fully expect they'll use it for their nuclear ambitions.
The White House says that is absolutely not the case, that this is an ongoing procedural step. This was the plan, and that they will stay on top of this, and they want to ensure this money is going to go toward things like food, medicine, and medical equipment. Hallie.
Monica Alba, thank you very much. Be sure to catch the rest of that exclusive interview with the Iranian president and Lester tonight on Nightly News, 6:30 Eastern, wherever you watch your local NBC station. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Western Bureau, officials say a 55-year-old man has died after trying to hike about 20 miles across the Grand Canyon in a single day. The hiker apparently stopped being responsive. People around him couldn't resuscitate him. Park officials say it can get super hot on parts of that trail, at times getting up to 120 degrees. They're looking into whether his death in particular was related to heat. Out of our Southern Bureau, a parking garage at a Florida hospital partially collapsed today. Look at this. Firefighters are searching the garage. They cannot say for sure yet that everybody is accounted for. Officials say it may have happened because some kind of structural failure. They're still looking into it. And out of our Northeastern Bureau, a morning commute gone literally off the rails in New York today. Officials say a New Jersey transit train into Penn Station essentially derailed. It was minor, they say, but service is back up and running at Penn Station. You can see people commuting into the city just waiting around on the train. It never actually fell over, and none of the 1,500 customers or crew on board were hurt, according to officials. So listen, some news just breaking into us in the last couple of minutes. The New York Times reporting that Fox is being sued by New York City pension funds over things that it said about the election that were not true. It's the biggest legal action against Fox since they settled that defamation lawsuit, agreeing to pay out more than $787 million for that. NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos is with us. Explain to us what this means and how big of a deal it is.
Well, this is a shareholder suit against Fox. So while the headline may look like, hey, the city of New York, through its comptroller, is suing Fox based on its election falsehoods, really what's happening is the city of New York has a bunch of pension funds, and it's saying, hey, Fox, we invested in you, and you didn't make us as much money as we wanted you to make because of all of these liabilities you exposed yourself to that cut into our bottom line. So this is not a case where, like, the Attorney General goes after Donald Trump. This is more like the city of New York, the comptroller, and its pension funds as an interested shareholder saying, hey, you guys, you cut into our profits by your falsehoods.
Danny Ceballos, thanks very much for that. Coming up here on the show, NBC News getting exclusive access inside the Georgia jail where Donald Trump was processed. There's our Blaine Alexander behind the scenes. She's going to join us live in just a sec. The man in charge of leading the arrest of Donald Trump in Georgia now says he's getting death threats, telling our Blaine Alexander tonight that he doesn't regret having the former president take that mugshot, and giving our team some exclusive access to the parts of the jail that Mr. Trump was in when he surrendered just a few weeks ago. He says he tried to treat the former president fairly. Listen.
I'm the sheriff because I have a job to do, and that job entails making sure that we treat people equally and that we really focus on what it looks like to really set the standard, understand the standard, and to your point, really hold people accountable in terms of the actual processes that we partake in.
This comes as we're gearing up to hear from a judge really any day now on whether or not the Georgia elections interference trial against the former president will actually start next month. Whenever it does begin, it's the Fulton County Sheriff who's going to have the huge task of securing that courthouse. I want to bring in Blaine Alexander live for us in Atlanta. Blaine, you are fresh off this interview and this exclusive access to the places where Donald Trump was, right? Got fingerprinted, got that mugshot taken. So much of what we've seen about not just this indictment, but the others around it have been about the optics, if you will. That mugshot has now become a symbol for Donald Trump's supporters and his critics. Tell us more about that piece of it, right? Putting visuals now to this moment that is making history.
You know, Hallie, it's so interesting because up until really today, the only thing that we knew about this monumentous surrender that we saw play out on live TV was the mugshot. That was all that we actually saw from inside the jail. We saw the motorcade, and that's about it. But talking to the sheriff, he was there every step of the way. He greeted the former president as he came inside the jail. He said they exchanged pleasantries for a moment. The sheriff, the former president told the sheriff, hey, I recognize you from TV. And the sheriff responded, likewise, I recognize you from TV as well. He says that he was only inside the building, Hallie, for about 8 minutes. That's interesting because we saw the motorcade come and go. That was about 21 minutes. But his actual time inside the building was even shorter. In fact, he signed his consent bond agreement, his bond paperwork, inside the car. So he went inside, walked inside, got the mugshot taken, walked about 50 feet to where he was fingerprinted, and was only inside just momentarily. And they actually brought the paperwork there to his car, Hallie.
What else did the sheriff tell you?
He told me a couple of things. One, it's really interesting. Most people would not have paid attention to the ins and outs of the Fulton County Jail until you have somebody like the former president show up. That's what's happening now, and that's why, of course, we're paying so much attention to the number of deaths, inmate deaths that have taken place over the past year. 10, in fact. I asked him about that. I said, really, what's going on? Does that number shock you? He talks about the fact that he inherited a problem. He's been ringing the alarm bell since the beginning since when he took office, saying we need more resources, we need more money for a new jail. He said that basically the fact that people are paying attention to this jail has the kind of unintended consequence of having people now pay attention to his request for more resources for the jail. So he said that's kind of an unexpected upside there. I also asked him about that decision to take a mugshot. He said that ultimately came down to him. It was a difficult decision, one that he wrestled with over a number of days. But here's why he told me he did decide to have the mugshot taken. Take a look.
What ultimately led you to say, I've decided we are going to take a mugshot of the former president? What was the deciding factor there?
We have 3,600 detainees. 85 to 90% look like you and I. And they don't have that choice. We don't give them that choice. And they are simply accused of a crime as well. I have a responsibility to our community to make sure that we are equal across the board.
So ultimately, it came down to fairness, to kind of put a point on it. He said that it would have been a preferential treatment if the former president did not have a mugshot. I said, you know, he is certainly one of the most recognizable men on the planet. There are a number of identifying photographs of him. Why do that? Would it have been unnecessarily inflammatory? He said he wasn't concerned about that. Ultimately, it came down to fairness. Hallie.
Blaine Alexander live for us there in Georgia, in Atlanta. Blaine, thank you. Still to come, TikTok Shop is here, but is it safe? How it's different than some other apps where you can buy stuff. Next. So you know when you look at the clock after scrolling on TikTok and you're shocked at how much time you've been on? Well, now you may have that same feeling, but with how much money you spent. That is because starting today, TikTok is rolling out its own shop to more than 150 million people who use TikTok in the United States, which means all the viral stuff that sends you straight to a website so you can buy it before it sells out, that can all now be done inside TikTok. Before, these influencers would post links that would take you away from the app. Now it's all going to be right there. And while that sounds like an awesome deal for these influencers, these sellers, and for TikTok, there are some potential risks, like scammers, like younger kids maybe buying things they shouldn't, and maybe even TikTok able to get even more information, more data on us. That's something that's been a concern for a while. Let me bring in the editor-in-chief of Investopedia, Caleb Silver. Listen, this is not like brand new territory for TikTok. Almost every other social media app has some kind of shopping that you can do right inside the app. So why should we be more concerned about TikTok than any of the other ones?
Well, it's that in-app shopping that you have to be careful of. And it's also very new to TikTok, pardon the noise, I'm at a conference, but there's not a lot of shopper verification or vendor verification that's happened yet. Not a ton of reviews because it's relatively new for TikTok, so it's always buyer beware. And a lot of people have bought something on the spot like that, and the algorithm is very popular, and not received their goods. It does not have that established e-commerce history like an Amazon, like a Snapchat, like an Instagram.
Do creators, do influencers get a better cut in this instance than they might on other platforms?
No, it's very similar to other e-commerce platforms. The marketplace is very similar, and there's a lot of affiliate marketing where you could have a celebrity or a well-known financial influencer or any influencer selling you other people's products. So the split is relatively the same. The mechanisms for how e-commerce works within TikTok are still being worked out. So it's buyer beware, just like everywhere else. But because TikTok's algorithm is so powerful, you have to be especially careful.
TikTok took off, I think, very quickly. It's extremely popular. What do experts predict about TikTok Shop? Do they think it's going to have that same kind of sticky quality?
Yeah, it's going to be sticky, it's going to be popular, and you're going to see it go very quickly, just like the adoption of the app itself.
Caleb Silver, thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us. That does it for us for this hour. We've got more coverage picking up right now. We are coming on the air with the major flooding putting Massachusetts underwater, with that state bracing for more. You can see how bad it is here. We've got our team live on the ground with more on the damage and where the next storm is set to drop even more water. Then an escaped killer getting a gun with the new questions about how he could still be on the loose after nearly 2 weeks. And the governor's pledge to find answers after they find this criminal. Plus, the House Speaker opening an impeachment inquiry into the president, a potentially consequential step ahead of a consequential campaign. While critics say it's just a power play. Then the brand new evacuation orders we're just hearing about in Libya, because officials there are worried another dam could break after catastrophic flooding that's already killed more than 5,000 people. We'll tell you more in just a sec. Plus, Apple now rolling out its latest iPhone and a new charging port, while you probably already have the new cords you'll need, and what it means for the rest of your cord drawers later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and tonight New England is bracing for another round of thunderstorms, which could make things even worse for a Massachusetts town under a state of emergency from catastrophic flooding. More than 9 inches of rain coming down in less than 24 hours. You can see the streets covered with water. That car is like almost totally submerged in that parking lot. There's a building here on the edge of this river. It's collapsed. That's the roof hanging down. You can see the bricks spilled out on the ground. Roads are falling apart. This whole area under and next to these train tracks is gone. And look at this car. It just straight up literally fell through the garage floor. It just fell. Other cars are sitting in either flooded riverbeds or streets. You really can't tell which is which. With these rivers just washing stuff up and moving stuff around. Listen to the mayor.
Our dumpster's full, and it came from somewhere else, and we don't know where it came from. So the water dragged that from the river once it went above stream and dragged it with it.
First responders are trying to make sure that everybody stays safe. They've got to get this under control fast because Hurricane Lee is getting closer and closer to the East Coast. It may not actually make landfall in the U.S., but it could totally drop a ton more rain on New England as it passes by. I want to bring in Kristen Dahlgren, who is live for us on the ground in Massachusetts. And Kristen, that seems to be the big concern tonight, right? The potential for more water when this community just can't take anymore.
Right, absolutely. So overnight we could get a few more storms, and then tomorrow expected to be some heavier downpours. And take a look. I'll step out of the way so you can see it. That's the car you saw earlier, and you can see some gentlemen here checking things out. That actually was a driveway that it's in. Now there is rushing water coming down that driveway. Right behind it is the train trestle where the commuter train rail was washed out. And so this is still just flowing into the streets as people here are, assessing the damage. And you can see over there, too, how much it's up against that house, the basement of that house, presumably completely underwater because the water is just pouring into that area. And so this is still a very real concern, and we're still seeing that water carrying away some of the dirt and some of the pavement. So still could be a big problem. The governor toured the area earlier today. She plans on declaring a major disaster area to help get some funding to rebuild here. And some of the rescuers say they have never seen anything like this. Take a listen.
My 37 years, I've never seen this much. A lot of people, the mayor agrees, and just, and a lot of utilities, problems. So we're just, let National Grid know that they need to start checking their gas lines, and, a lot of gas stuff's been shut off. So it's going to take a long time to get things back to normal in Leominster.
Yeah, definitely going to take a long time. Schools were canceled today. They've already been canceled again for tomorrow as we brace for more rain here, Hallie.
Kristen Dahlgren live for us there in Massachusetts. Kristen, thank you. New anger and new fear tonight in Pennsylvania as the convicted killer who escaped from a prison nearly 2 weeks ago now has a gun that he stole. And the governor is pledging to find answers as to how this killer could possibly still be on the loose after all this time. Look at this new video we have from one of our choppers in the area. One of our affiliates, something like 500 police officers and troopers combing through backyards and woods, expanding the search area today after Danilo Cavalcante took a rifle from somebody's garage. Police say the homeowner tried to shoot Cavalcante, firing off several shots before he got away. He apparently ditched his green hoodie and white T-shirt near the driveway.
You're armed and extremely dangerous. We ask residents in and around this vicinity to please secure homes, outbuildings, and vehicles.
Schools in the area shutting down again today because of this, after somebody reportedly saw Cavalcante on the side of the road. Troopers finding what they think are his footprints in the mud and the prison shoes he also abandoned. I want to bring in Lindsay Reiser, who is on the ground for us live from Pennsylvania. And Lindsay, here we are now, stretching into almost 2 weeks since Cavalcante escaped, but a major escalation tonight. He now has a gun. I have to imagine that people are extremely on edge in this area.
Well, and Hallie, we're outside a command post, and so we've been watching a lot of law enforcement vehicles, a lot of activity. There's been changing of shifts, more units being brought in, other units being relieved. But as far as that level of anxiety, you know, it's interesting. We've been talking to some residents, and of course, some people are, of course, understandably very on edge. I mean, schools in the area were closed, you mentioned. After all, we have a violent criminal who is on the loose. But there are some people who actually are just sort of tired of the nuisance of these roadblocks and just want him caught already. A lot of people say, I'm not necessarily nervous or scared, I just want it to be over. Of course, you're going to have different opinions depending on who you ask. But those late night developments, I mean, 8 p.m., a woman spotting someone crouched in the woods, and then 2 hours later, that resident calling police saying that Cavalcante, what police believe was a crime of opportunity, entered that open garage looking to hide, found that .22 caliber rifle, fled. That homeowner shooting at Cavalcante. But right now, authorities say they have no reason to believe that he is injured. They say they believe he's wearing blue pants. He's wearing potentially a stolen pair of boots that he found on a porch. He's shirtless. And right now, they're honing in on this 8 square mile area. They've got about 500 personnel in the air, on the ground, trying to find this guy. But Hallie, it's challenging. The area is very wooded. It's dense. You've got cornfields. You've got cow and horse pastures, a lot of barns, a lot of places where someone could be hiding. So authorities are asking people, when you're home, lock your doors, keep your cars locked. Don't leave anything out that could be of use to Cavalcante, Hallie.
There's also this accountability question with some of these, some of the concerns around the amount of time that it's taken to catch this guy seeming to build. We heard from the governor of Pennsylvania on that today. Lindsay, help us understand how we're thinking about those questions. It seems like the attitude seems to be, hey, let's catch this guy first, then we'll talk about the rest of it. Is that fair?
Well, and our colleague George Solis asked at that press conference, what went wrong here? I mean, we're entering, as you mentioned, day 13, and people are tired of this and they're on edge. And state police said, look, nothing went wrong. We've continuously found this needle in a haystack. And the governor did say they believe they have him in this containment area. And he said he's confident in state police. This is what else he said.
Like, obviously, there are questions that Chester County officials are going to have to answer as to how this suspect was able to escape, particularly given the history at that jail.
So at that prison, there was another escape earlier this year. The manhunt did not last this long before that prisoner was captured. But we saw that video, just that extraordinary video of that crab walk up the prison walls. He was able to scale a roof, scale more walls, razor wire. And so there will be a lot of questions, Hallie, also at that prison. But of course, right now, the focus remains on this manhunt and on capturing Cavalcante, Hallie.
Lindsay Reiser, tomorrow, 2 weeks since Cavalcante escaped. Lindsay, thank you so much. Live for us there in Chester County. In Washington now, the House Speaker tonight opening an impeachment inquiry against President Biden. Typically a significant and weighty step. And tonight, one that has his critics up in arms. That's because Speaker McCarthy promised less than 2 weeks ago he wouldn't do this unless he got the green light from the whole House of Representatives. Well, fast forward 11 days, here we are, with Speaker McCarthy under pressure from some to his right. He is now formally looking into impeaching the president. These committees are looking into it over allegations that the president may have been involved improperly with his son's business dealings. This is something that Republicans have been investigating for months, with so far no evidence that the president himself did anything wrong. So if that holds, then what would be the point of an impeachment inquiry? Well, critics say politics and perhaps power as we head into a key campaign year and as Speaker McCarthy hopes to hold on to his gavel. I want to get to NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent, our senior Capitol Hill correspondent, Garrett Haake, who is joining us live now. So, Garrett, let me take this in a couple of different buckets, right? The facts, the fallout, and then the, Beltway drama of it. Facts-wise, we know that Republicans have been investigating Hunter Biden. We've heard from Hunter Biden's team basically saying that this is a political charade, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here. A White House spokesperson was just out in the last hour or so essentially saying this is baseless. Republicans want to see more records now. They want to talk to more people. And by rising to the level of an impeachment inquiry, they will have more legal power to do just that.
That's the hope, Hallie. House Republicans have been investigating the Biden family, particularly Hunter Biden, since they took over the chamber back in January. So far, they've not shaken out much in general, but specifically nothing that's linked to Hunter Biden and Joe Biden in the way that they would need to actually impeach him. Their hope here is by amping this up to an impeachment inquiry, they get a little bit more legal muscle and, frankly, a bigger spotlight as they try to expand their investigations and link what they believe to be the kind of malfeasance of Hunter Biden and his overseas business dealings with President Biden. And again, so far, they've failed to do that. They've produced no such evidence. The White House Democratic allies say it's because it doesn't exist. But this is kind of an opportunity for House Republicans to elevate their game here if, such game exists.
If it moves forward, right, and that is still a big if, it is all but certain to go nowhere in the Senate. Fair?
I think that's right. I mean, look, but it doesn't have to move forward at a pace where the Senate even matters for it to be politically useful to Republicans here. I mean, they want to have an investigation that people pay attention to. They want to knock down Joe Biden's numbers if they can. Certainly the pro-Trump elements in the House Republican Conference do. Some of them see this as kind of a revenge for the 2 impeachments that Donald Trump suffered along the way. But I think it is fair to say, both among Republicans and Democrats, there's not really any appetite for taking this up or doing anything with it in the Senate, although if the House ultimately does impeach Joe Biden, they won't have much of a choice. But here's what those impeachment articles, again, if we ever get that far, would face in the Senate from the Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer.
I think the impeachment inquiry is absurd. The American people want us to do something that will make their lives better, not go off on these chases and witch hunts.
Even if impeachment articles ultimately do end up in the Senate and don't go anywhere there, Hallie, the Senate does still have to take up a trial. They're constitutionally mandated to do so. Republicans might like the idea of tying down the Senate where they can't confirm judges or do basically any other work for a trial, even if they know they won't get the votes in the end.
I will say, just to pull back the sort of Beltway drama piece of it, something that I've heard for quite literally years, right, since President Biden took office, was from Democratic allies of the president who suggested that they would brace for the potential of an impeachment, right, if the House went Republican, either the president, one of his cabinet members, et cetera. It is not altogether unexpected that the House would be moving in this direction. What was interesting was that it was just 10, 11 days ago that Kevin McCarthy indicated he wouldn't do it unless he got the green light from the full House. It is a reversal on his part. He is doing it in some ways under pressure from the far right. You're already seeing some of these members of Congress on the right say, kind of work to try to take credit for a little bit of this. Help us understand the politics here, because that's a piece of it too.
Yeah, Hallie, look, you might have heard that from me among your other sources here, because I'm one of those people who's always believed that the minute House Republicans took control, that an impeachment of Joe Biden for something was probably going to be inevitable. There was just going to be too much pressure from the far right, the pro-Trump group within that Republican conference, to do something at some point to get even and to try to muddy the waters. And I think that's what we're seeing now, where the pressure on McCarthy has built and built and built, and the trust that he has accumulated with the far right on other issues has been chipped away at. They're unhappy with the way that he handled the debt ceiling deal. And so he was facing a ton of pressure. And I think this is why he did it the way he did today. By announcing this himself, he gets the ball rolling, but he doesn't have the formal vote that he has promised on the record several times that he probably didn't have the votes for, with his more moderate members not wanting to go down that path. But, Hallie, it's not going to be enough for his far-right critics. That's the problem he's always had. Listen to this from Matt Gaetz on the floor today.
Mr. Speaker, you are out of compliance with the agreement that allowed you to assume this role. The path forward for the House of Representatives is to either bring you into immediate total compliance or remove you pursuant to a motion to vacate the chair.
The metaphor I like on this one, Hallie, is they've got sort of, if you give a mouse a cookie problem when it comes to this far-right group in the Republican conference. Nothing McCarthy can do will satisfy them for long. Every time they lean on him to move in their direction on one issue, they take it as a sign that they can lean on him further to move even more in that direction. And that seems to be the case with this impeachment inquiry announcement today, where we're already hearing from those members saying, yeah, thanks, that's nice, but we're still not with you on the spending fights that we're doing later this month.
Can I ask you, Garrett, one thing that I've heard from Democratic operatives privately is the idea that things related to Hunter Biden simply do not move the needle, they believe, with voters in a significant way. Have you heard any concern from, let's say, moderate Republicans that perhaps the speaker, those on the far right, are overreaching on this issue?
Yeah, look, I mean, that's always a concern, especially when it comes to impeachment. Historically speaking, the idea of impeaching a president is so divisive. It tends to kind of splash back on the party that does it. Doing it on something that relates to Hunter Biden, but with only a tenuous connection to Joe Biden, the actual president, I think would be even worse. That's the gamble that McCarthy's taking here, because once you start down this road, it's almost impossible to get off of it. The idea that McCarthy would open an impeachment inquiry and then ever back away and say, oh, you know what, we didn't find enough, or we're going to clear Joe Biden of wrongdoing because the only evidence is about Hunter Biden, that's just not going to happen. So they're going to have to take whatever evidence they get politically and run with it. And a lot of these moderate Republicans in Joe Biden-leaning districts, they don't necessarily want to go down that road because they don't know where it's going to end.
Garrett Haake, live for us there on Capitol Hill. Busy day for you. It will be a busy year for you. Garrett, thank you. Breaking in just the last hour overseas, we've learned that an area in eastern Libya is being forced to evacuate over concerns another dam could collapse. That would be catastrophic. And frankly, it already is catastrophic here. At this point, according to Libya's news agency, the mayor in this region says this dam that is still at this point standing has cracks in it, but water's leaking out. They're worried that if the dam breaks, it could mean more devastating flooding like what we've already seen. Massive storm triggered those floodwaters, which broke those dams, killing more than 5,000 people in a situation that's reminiscent of what happened during Hurricane Katrina here. Entire neighborhoods swept away. Look at this. This is what the relief effort is looking like now, with more than 10,000 people still considered missing. In other places, you see houses in pieces, cars and roads in pieces, destroyed by the storm itself. All of it making for a difficult and gruesome day for responders, uncovering hundreds of bodies. Josh Lutterman is joining us now. Josh, help us understand this evacuation order now in eastern Libya. Where are these people to go, and how close is this dam to breaking?
Well, the small comfort here, Hallie, is that this area now facing this evacuation concern is less populous than Derna, where we've seen those thousands of people dead, about 10,000 that are missing. And so the potential for loss of life here may be smaller. But the fact of the matter is, this is not the first time that concerns have been raised about floodwaters breaching these dams, leading to this kind of catastrophe. Just last year, there was a scientific study that found that these dams in this particular region of Libya were at risk, and that the results, if they were to be breached, would be absolutely devastating. They found, among other things, that there were homes in the pathway that the floodwaters would go if the dams were actually breached. And they also found that there was insufficient vegetation in those areas to really keep the soil together and make sure that it didn't lead to catastrophic loss of life. And so there's going to be a lot of second guessing about whether enough was done to prepare for this kind of thing. But right now, the immediate focus on the recovery and trying to save lives as the death toll just keeps rising. And I want you to listen to what Brian Lander from the World Food Program had to say today about exactly what is going into this response.
The scale of it is unclear, but we know it's big, and we know it's going to take a massive response. We're ready to deploy that quickly and rapidly as soon as we understand where the most needs are, who are the communities that are most impacted and in the most desperate need, and move that out as quickly as possible.
In this region, countries from Egypt to Tunisia to Turkey sending in airplanes and rescue efforts, Hallie, while the White House says President Biden is also sending funds to groups here that can help in the region, also looking for ways to work with the UN to try to help.
There's also this political backdrop here because this is a country that has been divided by rival governments. There's not a lot of infrastructure in this particular city itself. It's been neglected for years, right? I mean, that is making this situation more complicated, if that's even possible, more complicated than it already is.
That's right. The focus in this region for the last decade or so has been on fighting between warring factions, not on upgrading infrastructure, not on preparing for potential emergencies and getting rescue teams in place, preparing for the worst. And the other problem here is that aid groups and governments that want to help don't necessarily have trusted partners on the ground that they can help. In fact, in the hardest hit area, the U.S. government doesn't recognize the authority that's actually in control of that area. So there are all kinds of layers here that are making this so much more difficult to try to respond to, Hallie.
Josh, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Breaking in just the last couple of minutes back here at home, the CDC director is signing off on a new COVID shot, saying anybody over 6 months should get it. This is the final step in the approval process for this updated shot. It means you could see these vaccines going into arms inside the next 48 hours. It comes as one big tech company has taken a pretty controversial step to block COVID misinformation. We're talking about Threads on Meta. You know, it's the competitor to X, now Twitter. If you logged on tonight and typed in pretty much any COVID-related thing, this is what you would see. A message directing you to the CDC website for more info. In a statement, Meta says this move is simply temporary and that pretty soon you'll be able to search for topics related to COVID when the company is confident in the quality of the results. I want to bring in NBC's Erica Edwards and Jake Ward, who is covering this for us from San Francisco. Erica, let me start with you on that updated vaccine. Most significant step here, or actually I should say the final step in the process for these updated shots to become available. Tell us about it. What should we know?
Yeah, so the CDC has recommended that everybody over age 6 months get the shot this fall. Really, we're going to see a push toward those most vulnerable groups. We're talking about the elderly as well as people with really weakened immune systems. So that's really going to be the main focus, although that shot really, the CDC says anyone over age 6 months should get that this fall, much like we do every year with our flu shot before Halloween in most cases. Now, let's talk about cost for a second, because for the first time this year, the Biden administration, the federal government, is not actually footing the bill for these shots. Both Pfizer and Moderna have listed their shots at over $100. The good news here, though, is that for the majority of Americans, it's not going to cost anything. Most private health insurance plans and public ones like Medicare are going to cover those costs as long as you generally stay in network. For the underinsured and the uninsured, they can get those shots at community health centers. Hallie.
Erica Edwards, thank you very much. Jake Ward, let me bring you into the conversation here because we talked about how Threads is temporarily blocking searches about COVID. Explain why and why now.
Well, the why is not entirely clear. It seems to be that essentially they've decided that there is just so much misinformation out there that they do not want to be party to more of it. And as a result, if you try to type in many of the words that you mentioned, and right up until the moment I've got here with you, I was typing them in and they're still coming up in the same way. If you put in COVID, coronavirus, vaccine, any of these sorts of terms, you don't get the organic search results that would connect you to other users and their posts. Instead, you just get this one destination, and that's the CDC site. Now, how long this is going to last, we don't know, but Meta seems to believe that they need to get their arms more around the quality of the search results before they're going to be willing to let this information move across their platform. And so at this hour, the CDC is all you get.
Jake Ward, thank you very much. More to come on that one for sure. Appreciate it. Right now, we are hearing from the family of Tyre Nichols just hours after 5 former Memphis police officers were charged with federal indictments in Nichols' death. I want to show you here right now the family, their attorney speaking live now. Just a moment ago, we heard from attorney Ben Crump. Listen.
To say thank you to the grand jury for affirming what we already knew in our hearts, that these police officers brutally killed Tyre Nichols, and it was unjustified.
Remember, Nichols was beaten by officers back in January after they stopped him in his car. He died at the hospital 3 days later. The Justice Department saying late today, nobody is above the law.
When some officers violate the Constitution, when they use excessive force, when they ignore serious injuries inflicted on people they arrest, their actions erode the public's trust.
The 5 men have already pleaded not guilty to separate state charges of second-degree murder. I want to go right to our justice correspondent, Ken Delaney. And Ken, you heard from Ben Crump. We're hearing from the family now about how they see this new significant development here. Talk to us about these charges and what it means.
Hallie, the Justice Department has charged these 5 officers under 18 U.S.C. 242. That's a law enacted after the Civil War that makes it a crime to deprive someone of their civil rights under color of law. And so what they're saying is by beating Tyre Nichols to death, by failing to administer medical aid right away, and then by conspiring to obstruct justice and tamper with witnesses, these officers committed a federal crime, deprived Mr. Nichols of his right. It goes on top of the murder case, and it carries up to life in prison. And the Justice Department feels it's a strong message to send that it will not tolerate police misconduct. And it also adds a fail-safe in case anything goes wrong with the state case against these 5 officers. And those charges in the state carry up to 25 years in prison. Again, this is a life sentence for these civil rights charges, Hallie.
Ken Delaney, and thank you very much. Coming up here on the show, some new details tonight after those horse deaths at Churchill Downs. What a new report suggests did and did not happen. Plus, we told you all about major flooding in China. Now people there are getting warned about something swimming in that water. It's coming up. A legendary boy band may be reuniting soon. That's coming up in our 5 things, and that's really aimed at you elder millennials. But first, the head coach of the New York Jets says his team, he's being optimistic here, says his team could still make the Super Bowl, even after finding out that Aaron Rodgers is going to be out the rest of the year with a torn Achilles tendon after just 4 plays in his first game. Here's the head coach.
I don't know why people are trying to put an obituary onto our team name. You know, it's Aaron is an unbelievable piece to this whole thing, and we love him. But I think there's 52 other guys in the locker room, plus the 16 practice squad guys that believe that we can do a hell of a lot of good things here.
So don't write the obit, he says. Keep in mind that Rodgers is almost certainly a future Hall of Famer. And Jets fans, Jets front office folks, were really counting on him to revitalize the franchise and try to make a run deep into the playoffs. Now, it's not even clear if he's ever going to take another snap for the team. Stephanie Gosk joins us now. Football fans, right? So let's just stipulate that. Know that this was like a huge part of the season was the Aaron Rodgers story. The Jets' schedule is packed with these nationally broadcast games, 4 of 5 of them in prime time. A new Black Friday game on Amazon. Hard Knocks centered around the Jets and specifically around Aaron Rodgers, right? Like
and on.
Beyond the Jets, beyond New York, Aaron Rodgers is like a huge story here. And now this. The Jets are trying to say, hey, don't count us out yet. Did they give any indication as to whether he'll still be around, trying to do some mentoring, et cetera?
Right. I mean, look, in defense of the head coach there, what's the guy going to say?
What's he going to say? He's not going to come out and say, well, forget it. No, of course not. I don't blame him for saying that.
But listen, I'm actually wearing green because I actually do empathize with Jets fans, even though I'm a Patriots fan.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, did you switch your allegiances this year? Because that would have been also big.
No, I did not. But I actually, being a sports fan, you can understand just how awful that must have been last night watching that game. I mean, honestly, even by NFL standards, there was an enormous amount of hype surrounding the Jets this year, and this football game last night was the most important one in week 1, and the one everyone was looking forward to, regardless of their allegiance. And there really was this feeling and this hype that this team was going to go to the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers himself liked to say it. They talked about it in Hard Knocks, that HBO series that you mentioned, and to have it all fall apart and so quickly, just like that, I think it's fair to say that Jets fans are in a state of shock, and the head coach is handling it as best as he can today. But Rodgers is out for the season. Here's more of what he had to say.
I think I speak for everyone in the organization. We all want him here. We all want him to be connected, and I think he wants to be here. But again, it's something that we'll continue to talk about, just trying to let him breathe and give him some time to digest everything that's happening.
And look, the Jets were looking forward to a team that looked a lot different than last year. What they're left with is a team that looks pretty much exactly like the one they had last year, with a few add-ons that were really just brought in for Aaron Rodgers, Hallie.
And Aaron Rodgers is somewhat unique in the National Football League, Steph, and you know this. And by that, I mean he is not simply a football player, right? He is somebody who has an appeal and who has a reputation beyond simply the football field. He's been outspoken on controversial issues like COVID vaccines, for example. In fact, in an Instagram post just recently, he crossed out the word Moderna behind Novak Djokovic at the U.S. Open. You can see it there. It is unlikely, it seems, that he will not end up in the spotlight, even if he's not playing. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, he could be a somewhat controversial guy. I think one of the things that was surrounding him and this build-up to this season was that he was all in on this team in a way that even surprised the organization itself, and his desire really just to get this team into the playoffs. So was he going to wade into some of those controversial waters? For sure. It really is a big question mark. There is surgery in his future. This is a really tough injury to come back from. The Achilles heel doesn't heal well, it doesn't heal fast, and there will have to be some big decisions about whether he even plays next year, Hallie.
Yeah, Stephanie Goss, thank you very much for being all over this one for us tonight. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, the FDA panel says the key ingredient found in popular over-the-counter decongestants doesn't actually work. After a hearing we told you about last night, we're talking about phenylephrine. It's in stuff like Sudafed PE and Benadryl allergy plus congestion. The FDA says when you swallow it, like in a pill form, very little of the drug gets to where it actually needs to go. Now they're going to consider whether to strip its designation as safe and effective. And if that happens, it could get pulled from store shelves. Number 2, a new report from the federally created panel that oversees horse racing isn't finding any clear reason why a dozen horses died at Churchill Downs. Says it doesn't seem to be the racetrack surface, and there don't seem to be medication violations. It did find risks with some of the horses' exercise and racing schedules. They say they've shared some recommendations with Churchill Downs. Number 3, the first day of that big antitrust trial with the DOJ taking on Google has just wrapped up as the Justice Department laid out its case that Google unfairly boxed out its competitors. Google says it is simply popular because people like it, and it still does have a lot of competition. Number 4. Can we just, maybe the biggest news for you elder millennials tonight at the VMAs, will NSYNC reunite? Will they tear up our hearts? A lot of fans think so. Apparently, I'm just riffing off of what I've seen on like the internet, but all 5 of them are in New York, or at least some of them are in New York. Are they going to show up? Are they going to go on tour? Is this the beginning of a big announcement? Let me tell you, NSYNC World is on fire tonight. I'm sure you're a part of it, so you probably already know. Number 5, the days of pouring your own Coke or Sprite or a mix of both of them are going to be over at McDonald's pretty soon. That's because the company's phasing out its self-serve soda machines. It's going to be gradual over the next 10 years. They want to try to make the experience more consistent. But alas, if you've ever wondered what High C, Sprite, and Dr. Pepper all tasted like at the same time. Delicious. In just the last few hours, Apple is rolling out its latest iPhone, the iPhone 15. And yeah, there's a bunch of new features, et cetera, but the biggie could have a big impact on your junk drawer. That's because it's a new charging port, USB-C. So it's not like if you have an iPhone, look at your iPhone, not that one, not anymore. It's going to be this thing, right? This little oval charging thing. You probably have it in your house already along with a zillion others. Here's what Apple's saying about the change.
USB-C has become a universally accepted standard. So we're bringing USB-C to iPhone 15. It's been built into Apple products for years. Now, the same cable can charge Mac, iPad, iPhone, and even AirPods Pro.
Apple there making it kind of sound like they made this call on their own, but here's the reality. The EU is essentially forcing tech companies into this. They passed a bill last year, legislation, to say tech companies have to have USB-C in their products. It's called the Common Charger Rule. It applies to phones, tablets, digital cameras, headphones, video game consoles, a whole lot more. Steve Kovac is covering this for us from Apple headquarters in Cupertino, California. Is somebody who did a fall cleaning in my house a week ago, Steve, and found like 700 different kinds of chargers. What does this mean? Sweet relief if you're an Apple person?
Yeah, basically. Or if your partner is an Android person, you can borrow their chargers now, Hallie. So the big change here, like you said, is coming out of the EU. And that regulation you mentioned was actually tailor-made for Apple because, look, they've been using this connector that I'm holding here. This is the Lightning connector that's been in use on iPhone since 2012, switching over to the standard USB-C. Now, it has a lot of benefits, not just being able to go to one cord for all your gadgets, but faster data transfers, even depending on the kind of brick you use to plug it into the wall, faster charging for your phone as well. So it's actually a good move overall. But in the meantime, we're going to have to go through this messy transition period. You might remember very similar to what we did about a decade ago when they switched over from that old iPod connector to what they have now.
Big picture here, Steve, Apple has obviously been a major innovator, a disruptor over the years, right? But when you look at not like setting this aside, looking more broadly at the company, they're now out, they're trying to roll out these new products. They often do, you know, obviously every year, however often. Do you see them as more in a follower role than a leadership role now, or is it a mix of both depending on the topic?
Yeah, it depends on the topic. And let's talk about artificial intelligence. AI is all anyone in the tech world can talk about. I think I've been on with you, in fact, talking about the way AI is changing everything. Wasn't even mentioned today during the event. Apple is a hardware company. Now, they talk about AI and machine learning, you know, powering stuff under the hood. But when it comes to a kind of gangbuster product like ChatGPT that everyone's been enamored with all year long, we haven't seen that from Apple yet. So, look, on the software front, on the thing everyone's excited about, nothing new there. And on the hardware front, Apple's kind of perfected what they do here. They make it so each new version of the iPhone is just a small iteration better than the one before, knowing that you're not going to upgrade every year like you used to, but if you upgrade every 3 or 4 years, it feels like a big upgrade, and that's what they announced today, Hallie.
Steve Kovac, thank you very much. When we come back, a lot more to get to, including the anger tonight in Morocco, what we're learning now about a potential holdup in help from some countries after that huge earthquake killed at least 2,900 people. Plus, why officials in Austria say one zookeeper is dead and another seriously hurt. It's later in the local. We are learning tonight that even more people have now been killed in that devastating earthquake in Morocco, 2,900 people. And as the number of victims goes up, so does the frustration and the anger over the country's response. The Moroccan government is facing a lot of criticism right now for seeming hesitant to accept help from dozens of countries, including France and Germany. When the earthquake first hit, French aid workers went and scrambled to pull together a rescue team. They were ready to go. It could have been in the disaster zone just 24 hours after that quake hit. But organizers say they never got the official okay from the Moroccan government. They didn't at that point. As of now, the government has only officially accepted help from the UK, Spain, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. And 4 days after the disaster, there is still no sign of government rescue or government help in some of the hardest hit villages. You've got some people digging for days with no help, in some instances with their bare hands. You've got regular people trying to move around water and food and blankets to get them to the places that need them most, with some saying they do not have what they need to survive.
There isn't a single inhabitable house. Our infrastructure here needs to be rebuilt from scratch. We don't know how long we will live here.
Raf Sanchez is joining us now. So, Raf, help us understand what people on the ground are telling you, the politics that in some ways are mixed up in this recovery push.
Yeah, well, Hallie, just starting with the politics, it's been interesting. In the last couple of hours, we've seen the King of Morocco out in public for the first time since this disaster rocked his country. He went to a hospital. He donated blood. He met with a number of victims of the earthquake. That's here in Marrakesh, rather than going up to the mountains where the worst of the damage is. Hallie, in some ways, the politics of this kind of disaster visit is universal. We see the president in the U.S. sometimes getting criticism, not showing up fast enough for some people in Hawaii, in Florida, for example. But it is very notable that as this criticism ramps up, we are for the first time seeing the king in public. There is this question that remains unanswered about whether the Moroccan government should be accepting more international aid. We heard from the French president, Emmanuel Macron, earlier today, and he reiterated what the French have been saying. They are prepared to send help, but they have not yet received the request from the government of Morocco, and this is a sovereign country. They cannot just show up on their own. So a lot of questions about whether more aid could be sent here. Hallie.
Raf Sanchez live for us tonight in Marrakesh. Raf, thank you. The White House tonight in a back and forth with Iran over billions of dollars that are part of a controversial prisoner swap, with the president of Iran telling our own Lester Holt exclusively that his country will use the $6 billion released by the U.S. however it wants to. Listen.
This money belongs to the Islamic Republic of Iran, and naturally, we will decide, the Islamic Republic of Iran will decide to spend it wherever we need it. Humanitarian means whatever the Iranian people needs. So this money will be budgeted for those needs.
Now, the National Security Council is pushing back, saying the money should only be used for humanitarian things, food, medicine, agricultural products. And their words here, that's it. The prisoner swap promises to release 5 detained Americans for 5 detained Iranians, along with that handover of $6 billion that's been frozen in South Korean banks because of sanctions. NBC's Monica Alba is joining us now. Mon, I know that you and our team are just hearing late tonight from, I believe it's a White House official, a senior administration official, rather, emphasizing this money was frozen, right? It was in South Korea. It's Iran's money. But there is this now controversy over it. How much, in reality, could it jeopardize the potential for this prisoner swap?
Well, the U.S. is really hoping that this goes forward, Hallie. They've been working on it quietly for years, and then in the last couple of months, we got a sense of what the deal would entail. But they are very clear here that the U.S. Treasury Department is the one that's going to be monitoring all of these transactions to ensure, they say, that these funds go to the right place. So to be clear, this isn't U.S. taxpayer money, which is what we're getting from this senior administration official in terms of clarity. And there's a real follow the money vibe here, where the U.S. is going to be tracing these funds that are going to be freed up, essentially, and then they're going to be going to banks in Qatar, and then that is where the U.S. will be able to see where the money is going, they say, and they say if it's diverted or used for something other than humanitarian aid, that they will then freeze it and not allow that to happen. But of course, there are plenty of critics here who say this could set a dangerous precedent for future countries that take Americans hostage. And you see there on the screen what the U.S. is hoping they can do in this process, and that they have set up these contingencies. But we know that those Americans aren't going to be released for at least a couple of days, not this week, maybe next week. And so they're still working out the details there. But that is where Republicans have stepped in and are fiercely criticizing the Biden administration for saying that this money, because President Raisi in Iran is saying they're the ones who are going to determine how to use it, they're very concerned about what that could mean. Here's a bit of a sense of their reaction today.
How they're going to use this money. They're going to use it to destabilize the area. They're going to use it to continue to have proxies against Israel.
I don't think the radical Ayatollahs in Tehran are going to use this for children's hospitals.
I fully expect they'll use it for their nuclear ambitions.
The White House says that is absolutely not the case, that this is an ongoing procedural step, that this was the plan, and that they will stay on top of this, and they want to ensure this money is going to go toward things like food, medicine, and medical equipment. Hallie.
Monica Alba, thank you very much. NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our foreign desk has done it for you. Here's some of what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Out of Austria, a rhino attacked married zookeepers, crushing the woman to death and seriously hurting her husband. The zoo director says the woman had been assigned to put bug spray on the body of the rhino today, but officials are not exactly sure why this attack happened. Both of these zookeepers had a lot of experience on the job. The zoo is now shut down until Thursday. Out of China, people hit by heavy rain are being warned to stay inside because of what may be lurking in the floodwaters. Apparently, dozens of crocodiles that escaped from a lake that overflowed. State-run media says that lake had nearly 70 adult crocodiles, plus 6 younger ones. Some of them, but not all, have been captured. Fortunately, for now, no injuries have been reported. And out of Greenland, we are just learning in the last few minutes that a luxury Norwegian cruise ship with more than 200 people on board has run aground there. The closest ship that can come and help may be days away. It's expected to arrive as soon as Friday, according to the Danish military. Officials say nobody on board is in any danger and no damage has been reported. Coming up here on the show, some exclusive access inside the Georgia jail where Donald Trump was processed. But the man in charge of Mr. Trump's arrest says he does not regret. The man in charge of leading the arrest of Donald Trump in Georgia now says he's getting death threats, telling our Blaine Alexander tonight that he doesn't regret having the former president take that mugshot and giving our team some exclusive access to the parts of the jail that Mr. Trump was in when he surrendered just a few weeks ago. He says he tried to treat the former president fairly. Listen.
I'm the sheriff because I have a job to do, and that job entails making sure that we treat people equally and that we really focus on what it looks like to really set the standard, understand the standard, and to your point, really hold people accountable in terms of the actual processes that we partake in.
This comes as we're gearing up to hear from a judge really any day now on whether or not the Georgia elections interference trial against the former president will actually start next month. Whenever it does begin, it's the Fulton County Sheriff who's going to have the huge task of securing that courthouse. I want to bring in Blaine Alexander live for us in Atlanta. Blaine, you are fresh off this interview and this exclusive access to the places where Donald Trump was, right? Got fingerprinted, got that mugshot taken. So much of what we've seen about not just this indictment, but the others around it have been about the optics, if you will. That mugshot has now become a symbol for Donald Trump's supporters and his critics. Tell us more about that piece of it, right? Putting visuals now to this moment that is making history.
You know, Hallie, it's so interesting because up until really today, the only thing that we knew about this monumentous surrender that we saw play out on live TV was the mugshot. That was all that we actually saw from inside the jail. We saw the motorcade, and that's about it. But talking to the sheriff, he was there every step of the way. He greeted the former president as he came inside the jail. He said they exchanged pleasantries for a moment. The sheriff, the former president told the sheriff, "Hey, I recognize you from TV." And the sheriff responded, "Likewise, I recognize you from TV as well." He says that he was only inside the building, Hallie, for about 8 minutes. That's interesting because we saw the motorcade come and go. That was about 21 minutes. But his actual time inside the building was even shorter. In fact, he signed his consent bond agreement, his bond paperwork, inside the car. So he went inside, walked inside, got the mugshot taken, walked about 50 feet to where he was fingerprinted, and was only inside just momentarily. And they actually brought the paperwork there to his car, Hallie.
What else did the sheriff tell you?
You know, he told me a couple of things. One, it's really interesting. Most people would not have paid attention to the ins and outs of the Fulton County Jail until you have somebody like the former president show up. That's what's happening now, and that's why, of course, we're paying so much attention to the number of deaths, inmate deaths that have taken place over the past year. 10, in fact. I asked him about that. I said, really, what's going on? Does that number shock you? He talks about the fact that he inherited a problem. He's been ringing the alarm bell since when he took office, saying we need more resources, we need more money for a new jail. He said that basically the fact that people are paying attention to this jail has the kind of unintended consequence of having people now pay attention to his requests for more resources for the jail. So he said that's kind of an unexpected upside there. I also asked him about that decision to take a mugshot. He said that ultimately came down to him. It was a difficult decision, one that he wrestled with over a number of days. But here's why he told me he did decide to have the mugshot taken. Take a look.
What ultimately led you to say, I've decided we are going to take a mugshot of the former president? What was the deciding factor there?
We have 3,600 detainees. 85 to 90% look like you and I. And they don't have that choice. We don't give them that choice. And they are simply accused of a crime as well. I have a responsibility to our community to make sure that we are equal across the board.
So ultimately, it came down to fairness, to kind of put a point on it. He said that it would have been a preferential treatment if the former president did not have a mugshot. I said, you know, he is certainly one of the most recognizable men on the planet. There are a number of identifying photographs of him. Why do that? Would it have been unnecessarily inflammatory? He said he wasn't concerned about that. Ultimately, it came down to fairness, Hallie.
Blaine Alexander live for us there in Georgia, in Atlanta. Blaine, thank you. Still to come, TikTok Shop is here, but is it safe? How it's different than some other apps where you can buy stuff. Next. So, you know, when you look at the clock after scrolling on TikTok and you're shocked at how much time you've been on? Well, now you may have that same feeling, but with how much money you spent. That is because starting today, TikTok is rolling out its own shop to more than 150 million people who use TikTok in the United States, which means all the viral stuff that sends you straight to a website so you can buy it before it sells out, that can all now be done inside TikTok. Before, these influencers would post links that would take you away from the app. Now it's all going to be right there. And while that sounds like an awesome deal for these influencers, these sellers, and for TikTok, there are some potential risks, like scammers, like younger kids maybe buying things they shouldn't, and maybe even TikTok able to get even more information, more data on us. That's something that's been a concern for a while. Let me bring in the editor-in-chief of Investopedia, Caleb Silver. Listen, this is not like brand new territory for TikTok. Almost every other social media app has some kind of shopping that you can do right inside the app. So why should we be more concerned about TikTok than any of the other ones?
Well, it's that in-app shopping that you have to be careful of. And it's also very new to TikTok, pardon the noise, I'm at a conference, but there's not a lot of shopper verification or vendor verification that's happened yet. Not a ton of reviews because it's relatively new for TikTok. So it's always buyer beware. And a lot of people have bought something on the spot like that, and the algorithm is very popular and not received their goods. It does not have that established e-commerce history like an Amazon, like a Snapchat, like an Instagram.
Do creators, do influencers get a better cut in this instance than they might on other platforms?
No, it's very similar to other e-commerce platforms. The marketplace is very similar, and there's a lot of affiliate marketing where you could have a celebrity or a well-known financial influencer or any influencer selling you other people's products. So the split is relatively the same. The mechanisms for how e-commerce works within TikTok are still being worked out. So it's buyer beware, just like everywhere else. But because TikTok's algorithm is so powerful, you have to be especially careful.
TikTok took off, I think, very quickly. It's extremely popular. What do experts predict about TikTok Shop? Do they think it's going to have that same kind of sticky quality?
Yeah, it's going to be sticky. It's going to be popular, and you're going to see it go very quickly, just like the adoption of the app itself.
Caleb Silver, thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us. That does it for us for this hour. We've got more coverage picking up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.